Good morning. I hereby call to order the September 21st, 2017 public hearing of the City of Prescott Board of Adjustment. The board members present this morning are Steve Silvernail, Bryn Stotler, to my right is Johnny Forker, Ray Everett, and Tony Teeters. My name is James DiRienzo, and I'm the chairman. This is an open public hearing and is being taped, recorded, and videotaped by the city. The proceedings are being televised by representatives of the public media, the public, local cable, and/or radio stations, and may also be broadcasted. The number of members present this morning is 6. We need 4 for a majority. All parties wishing to be heard on the issue are required to raise their hand, be recognized by the chairman prior to speaking. Speakers will be expected to state their name and address for the record so that we may know who is speaking and be able to contact them at a later date if necessary. Please turn off all cell phones and electronic devices if you haven't done so already. Please stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. The first item on the agenda this morning is the approval of the May 18, 2017 minutes. Are there any revisions? Hearing none, I look for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes. Second.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? If none, I call for the vote. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Carried unanimously. The second item on the agenda is the variance V17-005, and we have a new community planner today, Katie Peterson. Katie.
Good morning. Should I go ahead and get started with the?
Yes, you may, except I have to do one thing right now. I have to recognize a few people in the audience.
Okay.
We have Jim Lamerson, who's filling in for Greg Lazell, City Council. George Rowley is a planner, Director of Planning. We have George Sheets there. He's with Planning and Zoning. And, of course, we have Katie Peterson. Thank you. Okay, Katie.
Okay, so again, it's Katie Peterson with Community Development Department. And this is a variance request agenda item. The variance is V17-005. It's a variance to Article 3, Section 3.5.3 F2, minimum setbacks of the Land Development Code to allow a reduction in the side yard setback to accommodate a third garage bay addition to the house, existing home. The zoning is single family 12 in a PAD. Property owner Robert and Terry Taylor. The location is 1987 Havens End in Prescott. So this is the general vicinity of the project that's proposed. It's just north of Sierra Peaks Road. And the request basically is, as you can see, the house is rotated on the lot and that's due to boulder formations in the front yard and side and rear yard. They're proposing the third garage bay on the west side of the house, and that's adjacent to the existing garage. The existing home is rotated at an angle, so rather than parallel to the front lot line, it's at that rotated angle in relation to the lot lines of the house. The alternate potential location could be, for an addition, would be in the rear yard. However, as you can see here to the west, there are 2 trees, mature trees, and there are also some small boulder formations. The access to the rear would be tight, and those would have to come out in order to allow access into the rear. And the applicant asserts that that's not an ideal location for their third garage bay. They're asking for a variance to allow 3 feet and 2 inches into the setback area, which would be minimal. With the variance, there would still be 21 feet and 8 inches between the neighbor's garage corner and the proposed garage corner. Looking at the variance criteria, the first, extraordinary conditions. There are conditions affecting the land such that the strict application of the provisions of the code would deprive the applicant of reasonable use of the land. For example, it could be justified that because of topography or size or shape, intrusive off-site impacts or other special conditions unique to the property. The boulder formations and the angle of the house in relation to the lot lines leave them with limited potential locations for building additions to the house. The second variance criteria that we look at, substantial detriment. Granting the variance would not be detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare, or injurious. The reduced side yard setback still allows for adequate space for emergency access, for example. And there are no other detrimental effects with regard to public health, safety, or welfare to the properties in the area. The third criteria we look at, special privileges. Granting of the variance is subject to such conditions as will ensure that the adjustment authorized shall not constitute a grant of special privileges inconsistent with the limitations upon other properties in the vicinity and the zone in which the property is located. So most other lots in the neighborhood have houses with building lines parallel to the lot lines, with a few others that feature houses angled on the lot, such as this one, to accommodate boulder formations. So these lots with alternate building pad layout provide a special set of circumstances that may justify some variation. The fourth criteria we look at, self-induced hardship. The hardship is not the result of the applicant's own actions. The angled building and rock formations on the lot are not the result of actions on the part of the applicant. General plan is the other criteria we look at, and the proposed variance is on an existing lot with no change of use, and it's therefore in compliance with the general plan and zoning. And the final criteria we look at, utilization. Because of special circumstances applicable to the property, the strict application of the zoning ordinance would deprive such property of privileges enjoyed by other property owners of the same classification in the same zoning district. The strict application of the setback requirement in this case on this lot places a property owner at a disadvantage with regard to the privilege most other property owners have of buildable area and building orientation, allowing for more flexibility with location of building additions. Let me show you a few. So this is the striped area is the proposed addition of the third garage bay next to the existing 2-car garage. And I'll show you some photos just to get an idea. This is the front of the house and driveway. The proposed 3rd-car garage that would intrude into the required setback area would be here just to the west of the house, where you see the pathway leading up to the side door is where right here is where the addition would begin. It would extend outward to about where these rocks are, and that's close to the property line there. The other area, looking from the top of the site, where there's open space on the lot where there could potentially be space for an addition, would be past those trees into the backyard. But as you can see, there wouldn't be access there without taking out the mature trees and a couple of rock formations there. This is the edge of the lot line, the corner, where the corner of the garage would come closest to the neighbor's house. So there are also, there's a support letter from a neighbor there to the west. And if you have any questions, I can answer questions.
Are there any questions for staff? Is the applicant here? I'd like to address the issue. Madam, please come up and to the microphone and state your name and address for us, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Terry Taylor, and my address is 1987 Havens End in Prescott, Arizona. I am the applicant. I don't have anything to add to Ms. Peterson's report, but if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. My neighbor to the west is also here if you have any questions for her.
Do you have any questions for the applicant?
Did you I'm sorry. Did you have the house built, or did you buy it built?
No, we bought it built. We bought it when it was 3 years old. We've been there for 22 years, but it was 3 years old when we bought it.
The last time I bought a piece of property that had an HOA attached to it, one of the worst decisions I ever made, I didn't pay attention to the HOA. Do you feel like
Oh, yes, the HOA has approved this. I actually supplied the letter to Darla Eastman. I don't know if you didn't get it, but I have a copy of the letter, and the HOA has already approved the variance.
easy to deal with HOA? Okay, thank you, that's all.
Okay.
I really should make a comment by saying that this board normally approves, or at least tries to approve, approvals of variances just like yours, when the topography really sets the tone on how you put your house up, rocks or boulders. So basically, that's one of the most important things in this particular report that might sway the board to positively approve this, by the way. So,
Well, thank you.
because we don't want to restrict the owners of property, especially if other people have the same conditions and they're using it. So we like to be fair. So,
I appreciate that.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
A quick question for staff, if I can.
Yes, you may.
Ms. Peterson, were the building envelopes designated on the final plat recordation, that version of the final plat? Were they set forth?
I'd have to check. I don't recall if. Just the standards? Just the standard.
Okay, just according to the code, not necessarily depicted on the final plat. Okay. Just a comment, I think that the actual area where the placement, garage placement is proposed doesn't in and of itself pose any topographical concerns. However, obviously, the original placement of the home creates that cascading effect where there are minimal opportunities to expand for this purpose or any other additions that may be proposed. So we find ourselves responding to the original build more than the proposed build in terms of the topographical concerns. That said, I think that it is very consistent with other uses in the neighborhood. Similar homes, driving through there were a lot of homes that were placed not according to lot lines and not parallel with lot lines. So it is consistent with the other uses in the neighborhood.
I think that the topography of Prescott, some of the lots in Prescott, require the planning and zoning and those who are approving these house and the footprints to make adjustments, because there are boulders there that are just, you approve the lot. If there's a boulder on it, you have to move the footprint of the house to accommodate that. You just can't tell the owner he can't build. So it's important to understand that we approve many of these based upon the topography of the lot, wherein if it were just a plain lot, we would never have done that. So. Any other questions for either the staff or the applicant? Then I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the variance.
Second.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. Any further discussion? If not, I call for the vote. All in favor of V17-005, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's approved unanimously. Congratulations. Is there any other issue for the good of the order from the board or from the general public or from staff? If not, the meeting's adjourned.